Yeah, so for those who don't remember Billy Mitchell, he's basically the guy who cheated in that the arcade game like a long time ago. I think it was for what was it for Pac-Man or something like that. But point is, he's the guy who like cheated, and then he there's like this whole freaking situation where they were gonna take away like after they finally like saw that he cheated and it was like in a court case and whatnot. They were gonna like remove his name from like the freaking records, but he like fought a lawsuit to keep it on the records instead. Like even though he cheated, it was a whole wild situation. I want to know what's going on though. It's been a minute. Also, Karl Jobst is just a great freaking YouTuber. Great stuff. Please go drop him a like, go drop him a sub. I will share this video on the Discord on the Bannana Cantina. It'll be in the live stream chat section. Go check it out, my dudes. Oh, I should be putting it on the reaction recommendations, honestly. I might make a separate one. We'll see. For now, it's a live stream chat.
This is the case number 2023-0432 Mitchell versus Race.
Hello, you absolute legends. This is Billy Mitchell's lawyer, and these are the justices of the Supreme Court of Florida. Billy is trying desperately to stop his ridiculous and frivolous lawsuit against the world's greatest Pac-Man player David Race from being thrown out, and Billy is going to fail. Billy is famous for suing or threatening to sue people who call him a cheater. Everyone already knows this. But defamation lawsuits aren't the only stupid lawsuits he likes to file, and Billy's lawsuit against David Race is arguably his dumbest ever. Billy sued David Race back in April.
The issue as well becomes that once you lose one of these lawsuits, it becomes a lot more difficult for you to win any future ones as well.
Of 2021 because
like
David recorded phone calls between him and Billy. David wasn't recording these calls because he had some evil scheme to expose Billy at some point or for nefarious reasons. He recorded them because he records all of his calls with everyone. David is a resident of Ohio, where you don't need the other person's consent to record your calls. What David did was
I believe you do here in LA.
Normal and legal where he lives. In fact, when David recorded these calls, which occurred between 2018 and 2019, David and Billy were friends, and David was a vocal supporter of Billy. But at some point, after reviewing much of the evidence against Billy, David came to the rational conclusion that not only did Billy cheat, but Billy had been lying directly to him and using him as a pawn. After learning the truth that Billy is a conman, David then chose to help Twin Galaxies in their lawsuit against Billy by providing them with a recording of a phone call showing that Billy was the type of person to lie and trick people. Billy was pissed that David was now helping Twin Galaxies. So Billy did what Billy does when he is upset with someone. He sued him. Billy claimed that what David did was illegal because Billy lives in Florida.
Dude, imagine being homies with someone and then later on just being like, I'm suing you. How dare you tell the people the truth about me?
You do need consent to record calls, but that's just not how it works. It doesn't matter where Billy lives, it matters where David lives. And where David lives, it's totally legal. And the court agreed. In March of 2023, the appeal court dismissed the lawsuit, literally saying that what David did was legal and that Billy's lawsuit was offensive.
That's an interesting one, but is that how that works? Like basically where you're standing, that's what the law that applies? That makes sense, I guess.
But Billy's crusade against David knew no bounds, and he took it all the way to the Supreme.
Now, if David was in LA at the time and did that, and then moved back to Ohio, I think Billy might have a chance to like sue him in the LA courts, right? Is that how that works? Lawyers out there?
Supreme Court of Florida, where finally, in November of 2024, they agreed that the lawsuit is to be thrown out for good. In this video, we will take a quick look at Billy's most recent failed attempt to sue an innocent person. I really hope you enjoy. Now, legends, it's Christmas time, and what better way to spoil yourself or someone you love than with a beautiful poster from Displate. Displate offers metal posters that not only look amazing, but are also very durable.
I really, really want one of these, but the problem is that I have way too many posters as it is, and I gotta put those up on the wall first before I actually start buying anything else. But boy, howdy, do I want that metal Middle Earth map. That
and easy to install using their magnet mounting system. Not only does this avoid damaging your walls, but it also means you can quickly swap them around whenever you...
But yeah, plus, that's a whole other thing. I'm one of those dudes who is like so incredibly freaking, like, not, like, I am so, what is it? I can never make up my mind. I can never make up my mind, so I constantly switch things all the time. I switch my room around, my like all my furniture around all the time. I switch my setups all the time, like in games, in my streams and everything. I swap all the time. So for me, swapping out a poster constantly is like so ideal. I would just have like a little storage, some place to like file away all my different posters. But you can just like keep swapping them out for something new, you know?
You want. I think if you love a game or a story, you should celebrate it with a
And it's
gorgeous
magnetized,
piece of artwork.
so it just stays on the
Displate
wall.
offers officially licensed designs from all of your favorite game,
Make it
TV,
straight
and
every
movie
single time.
franchises. These artworks are just incredible, and there are more than 2 million to choose from. If you don't have Displate posters on your walls, you are missing out big time. Displate ships very quickly all around the world. I live all the way out in Australia, and I get mine in around 3 or 4 days, which is insane. And of
It's
course,
scary out there in
Displate is offering
Australia.
an amazing discount for Christmas,
They
so
got
just click the
poisonous
link in the
crabs.
description or use code
Big
Karl at
spiders.
checkout to get up to 26% off your order. Please click the link and grab a Displate today. First, I want to give you a quick update on what's happening with my own lawsuit against Billy. As many of you know, in September and October, I went to trial because of Billy's defamation lawsuit against me. I've had a lot of people ask me what's going on, and if there has been a decision. So let me explain the process. My trial will be decided by a judge, and these decisions take time. It's not as simple as the judge just saying who won. As part of the decision process, they need to draft an extremely long and in-depth opinion about everything that happened during trial. This involves talking about all of the witnesses, all of the evidence given, all of the existing case law, and much more. And because my trial was
He claimed his
relatively
parts
long,
were evidence?
this decision is also going to be really long and involved. This takes time, and we will probably be waiting months for the judge to come back with his decision. And I don't know what that decision is going to be. During trial, Billy lied a lot, and ultimately what this will come down to is whether or not the judge believes anything Billy says. I think we made it pretty clear that Billy is a liar, but we're obviously biased, so who knows what the judge is thinking. Whatever the decision is, you will know as soon as it comes out. Even though many people who've read about my trial say they think I will win, I am keeping myself very humble. For my own mental health, I have already accepted the worst case scenario. I am already psychologically prepared to lose. I think the worst thing that could happen
Smart way
is
to
I
go
get my
about it.
hopes up, think I'm definitely going to win, and then end up losing. I'd rather assume I've already lost, deal with the grief early,
I always like to say, dude, pray for the best, but expect the worst.
and then hopefully be pleasantly surprised by a positive result. Either way, it won't affect
I
this
got that from
channel,
someone
and
else,
I
though.
hope
I
that
don't
if I
know.
do lose, I will still have your support.
Bro, it's the battle of the century right now.
Recording a phone call without consent is legal in Ohio. It's important to know this context at the outset, because for the past 3 years, Billy Mitchell has put an innocent man through hell with this vindictive lawsuit. Until you've been sued yourself, it's honestly hard to appreciate just how destructive a lawsuit can be to someone's life. So while many of you obviously accept that suing an innocent person is morally wrong, the full extent of just how bad an action this is won't truly be understood by many people. And I do hope that Billy's actions result in him being further ostracized from the gaming community. Because he didn't just sue anyone, he sued the best Pac-Man player ever. Billy always claims that he wants to champion video game competition, and that he is some shining beacon for the community, like he says in this clip here.
If I have achieved all that I could in the gaming world, I need to now push and advocate for competitive gaming, the players, the notoriety, the recognition, and all that they deserve.
But ironically, he is literally the worst thing to ever happen to video game high school competition. I mean, just his cheating alone would have been bad enough to solidify him as one of the most destructive figures in gaming history.
They even put him inside of that. Yeah, they even put him inside of the regular show.
But to go after so many fellow gamers who rightfully call out his cheating is even worse. Billy clearly does not care about the gaming community, because his actions towards other gamers are just evil. When you sue someone, one of the first things the court must establish is if it even has personal jurisdiction over the defendant. In this case, Billy, a Florida resident, sued David, an Ohio resident, and he sued him in a Florida court. And it's up to Billy to argue why Florida can dictate what laws David should obey. The reality in this case is that Florida doesn't have jurisdiction over David. If David owned property in Florida or conducted business in Florida, it would be different. But neither of these things are true. David really doesn't have any contact with Florida at all. The only contact he had with Florida is the fact that he occasionally spoke with Billy, and Billy lives there. But just having conversations with people who live in a particular state isn't enough to give that state jurisdiction over you. And this is why in March of 2023, the District Court of Appeal dismissed the lawsuit. And in their opinion, they made it very clear that what David did was perfectly legal and that any action brought against him in Florida would be unjust. They said, "It is significant that the conduct that offends the Florida plaintiff, the recording of phone calls without his consent, is not illegal in Ohio, where the calls were recorded. The recording of the calls is not malum in se, a wrong or evil in itself that is prohibited everywhere. Where a defendant legally records a phone conversation in his home state and has no other significant contacts with Florida, it offends traditional notions of fair play and substantial justice to require him to appear in Florida to defend against a lawsuit for an alleged violation of the Florida Security of Communications Act. We therefore reverse and remand to the Circuit Court with directions to enter an order dismissing the case for a lack of personal jurisdiction." This opinion was written by Judge Gross and was signed off on by the Chief Judge, Mark Smith. Now you would think
it wouldn't make any sense to have him show up, like basically fly from his state of Ohio down to Florida to get convicted for it when he's got like nothing to do with Florida anyways.
District Court of Appeal tell you that this lawsuit is offensive would perhaps give Billy some pause to reflect and reconsider his legal vendetta. But
I feel like people always forget that the United States is like, and this has nothing to do with just size generally, but it's freaking ginormous. Each state is its own damn country basically at a certain point. Not all of them, right? Some of them are too small, but like in general, you could really argue that. So this would basically be like somebody from the U.S. trying to sue somebody from Britain. You get me? It's like what does that have to do with me? Like I don't follow British law, or I don't follow U.S. law. You know, like somebody from Britain getting sued by somebody from the U.S. is like, what? I don't follow U.S. law. I live in Britain. I'm from Britain. In Britain, it's illegal. You know, like it makes no sense.
No, he continued pushing and took it all the way to the Supreme Court of Florida. In May of 2024, Billy's lawyer stood in front of the justices and tried to argue that Florida should have jurisdiction, but his arguments were bizarre. For example, one of his arguments related to the fact that David posted on his Facebook account that it was illegal to record calls without consent in Florida. And because David knew it was illegal in Florida, this is supposed to mean that he shouldn't have done it in Ohio.
Correct. So I understand that there's a sense in which this is some murky thing about where is the conversation occurring and everything, but if the whole point of all this personal jurisdiction stuff is to focus on what the defendant is doing and the connection between what the defendant does and the form. I mean, everything the defendant did, the recording, the speaking, I mean, it was all in Ohio. In what state was he in?
Ohio.
Yeah.
That is correct. He was physically located in Ohio, according to his affidavit. If I can take 1 second, just a second.
I love how he can't even according to his affidavit, he was in Ohio. I mean, who are we to say that he really was in Ohio? Like he can't even admit the guy was in Ohio.
You raised a point about whether or not the defendant knew my client was in Florida. He did subsequently post on Facebook that he went to justia.com and copied Florida statutes for the chapter 934 and copied it on there and said, it is illegal in Florida to record a phone call unless all parties give consent. I'm paraphrasing.
I have questions about that as well, but I think if you could answer the Chief's question. Then.
Yeah, again, but that's kind of like, it's like, let's say it's someone in the U.S. and someone in the U.K., and the U.S. guy sues the person in the U.K., and he's like, yeah, but the U.K. guy knows that it's illegal in the U.S. It's like, yeah, that doesn't matter. It's illegal in the U.K. He still lives in the U.K. Like, it's still where he is.
This argument is of course irrelevant, because David lives in Ohio, and was in Ohio at the time.
Who
But
cares
this is
if
just
he
what
knows
Billy's
the
lawyers
law of a
love to
different
do.
state?
They throw out nonsensical arguments hoping to confuse the situation. Billy's lawyer honestly looked like a bumbling buffoon when he was trying to explain why Florida should have jurisdiction.
All right. The answer is yes. He was located in Ohio at the time. But for the purposes of committing a tort in Florida under the long-arm statute, if an intercept and...
Here's the best part about this is that, there is no winning this one, I feel like. You cannot, you know what I mean? You can't, what he did was legal in the state that he did it in. So it's kind of like, there is no argument to the contrary here. There's no good argument, I should say, to the contrary. So it's like, no matter what he says, it's not gonna make sense, you get me? So it's just kind of like, what is this guy about to try? What bunny is he gonna pull out of this hat to impress us all?
Reason to depart from Mozo in this particular instance, since intercept means that he intercepted the call. Let's write that. Since,
He intercepted the call. Scratch that. Yeah, you can't intercept a call when they called each other. There's no call interception. Billy and Dan called each other, or David, I mean, they called each other. Who intercepted the call? There's not a spy.
That where my client
James Bond over here.
Means that the call was intercepted in Florida. In other words, under Mozo and under France and under the definitions of oral communication and other definitions in the statutes, basically, Race intercepted the calls in Florida. It was enough to commit a tortious act in Florida. It is enough to state that the tort, as alleged, occurred in Florida, which is really all you need for 1B jurisdiction, or 1A2.
Well, who intercepted the communications, though, James Bond?
Excuse me. So.
In the end, the justices were not convinced, and ended up discharging jurisdiction, which means they didn't make a decision either way, and accepted the decision made by the District Court of Appeal. The Supreme Court opinion stated, "In the end, while this case presents many interesting issues, we conclude those issues are largely academic in the context of the unique procedural history of this case. As a result, we exercise our discretion, discharge jurisdiction, and dismiss this proceeding." And that's it. It's over. After 3.5 years, David Reyes has finally won for good. For the past 3 years, I have heard Billy claim over and over that David illegally
Let's call David. Congratulations to David, dude.
Recorded his calls. He even declared this in his other lawsuits.
Why are you suing Mr. Reyes?
I'm suing him because he illegally recorded 27 phone calls between he and I.
But this was never true. It was always a lie. Perhaps now Billy will stop repeating this lie, but I'm really not getting my hopes up. Billy will of course try to sweep this under the rug, just like he always does when he loses a lawsuit. Don't expect an apology from Billy or an admission that this lawsuit was wrongly filed. In fact, if Billy had his way, he would never comment on this again, and everyone would simply forget it ever happened. That's what Billy wants. But I'm sorry, I just can't let that happen. On a more positive note, it really seems like Billy's legal crusade is coming to an end. All of his lawsuits have either been dismissed or settled. Note that Billy has never ever actually won.
Against Cartoon Network. I'm assuming for the regular show. Settled with Guinness. Okay. Twin Galaxies in Florida was dismissed, but settled in California, of course. Apollo Legend settled. Donkey Kong Forum dismissed. Jeff Harris dismissed. Jeremy Young dismissed. David Reyes dismissed. Karl Jobst. I'm looking at like the more like personal ones, and seemingly it seems like most of them get dismissed. Hopefully
the only
that's
lawsuit Billy has remaining is the one against me. Am I really going to be the only person Billy wins against? Oh boy, wouldn't that just be hilarious. Thank you so much for watching, you legends. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.
Absolutely amazing, my dude. Please go and drop him a like or drop him a sub. Karl Jobst makes some amazing videos. Not typically just about Billy Mitchell, but about other really amazing and interesting topics. Highly recommend. Thanks for hanging out. Like or dislike, comment, and subscribe, and become a Monodachi today! I live stream all day, Monday through Friday, so go say hi! That's all for now, Monos. Goodbye, and thanks for swinging by. Salut!